Hey guys, and welcome to Hobby Night. I am Angela, and for today's video, I will be painting the Plague Surgeon for my Deathguard army. As you can see, I have him in two pieces to try to make painting him a little bit easier. I took his blade or his drill arm off just because I wanted to make sure I really get some nice work done on that. So we are going to have a little bit of a new format for this video as well, so make sure you let me know in the comments what you think of it. But let's go ahead and get started because I've picked out all my paints and I am ready to go. All right, like I said, I have him in two pieces, and quite honestly, I wish I could have had both his backpack and his other arm separated from him during the painting process. It would have just made everything a lot easier. We're going to go ahead and start with Militarum green on all of the armor bits. I did debate for a little bit whether or not I was going to do the nerdling on his shoulder in Plaguebearer flesh or Militarum green, but ultimately decided to keep it consistent with the rest of the armor. So the armor is all painted up, and I'm really liking the Militarum green as a Deathguard armor color. It just works very, very nicely. Maybe GW might think about renaming their green tones. They just don't always match. But the next part that we're going to be doing for the miniature is his armor, or the metal bits on his armor rather, as well as the fly emblem, the syringe tips, and a couple other pieces on there. But basically all of the metal will be done in orange. All of the metal bits are completed, with obviously the exception of the drill and his sword, as well as that bell that you might notice near his leg. The drill and sword we're actually going to do next in Black Templar, mostly because what I've been doing with all of my Deathguard army's weapons is been doing them in black, and then I do a cool dry brush of Skink Blue on them, and it gives it this kind of rusted, like a blue tone rust glow effect, and I really, really like it. The weapons are completed, and I think A is coming together very, very nicely. The next portion is going to be doing all of the detail bits that are left on the miniature. We're going to start with about a bit of yellow on any of the cords. We're going to use pink on the tentacles and tongues. The red is going to be used on the nerdling's eye. We're going to use warp lightning for any of the vials. Nazdreg yellow will be what we paint the bell in. And then we're going to use Plaguebearer flesh for both the Space Marine's face underneath his cloak as well as the head on the back of his backpack. So all the detail work is finished, and we just have the leather, the skull, and the cloak left to do. So we were going to do any of the little leather strap bits. He's got a couple of skulls in some of the trilobes around him, as well as in his backpack, and we're also going to paint the horn, as well as the teeth of the nerdling that is sort of stuck into his shoulder pad there. With all of the leather detail work finished, the only thing left now of our base coats is going to be the cloak. So we're going to use Magos purple to do that. With this particular paint, if you are ever using it yourself, be aware that it is a little bit of a thinner pigment than some of the other contrast paints. So I did find that I had to end up layering this cloak 3 or 4 times in this color just to get the final purple rich tone that I wanted it to be. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but it basically, this one functions more like a glaze than some of the other contrast paints that you'll find. And so just be aware when you have those colors that sometimes it takes a little bit longer and you have to layer it a little bit more slowly. All right, so now all of the base coats are finished. All the detail work is done, all of it. So the next step is going to be in the following processes. I'm going to paint the base, like the actual physical base itself, in Tallarn sand, just to give it a nice coating and cover any of the other colors that I may have gotten onto it during the painting process. Next up, I will go ahead and dry brush the black on the drill and the sword in Skink Blue, and then I will layer the technical paint and let the sand dry and crackle as I want it to. Finally, we will use Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade to do our washes over the miniature, and he will be finished. The last thing after that is to put the tufts on him, but we don't show that one on camera here. But you'll see him in the final video where I ultimately place those. All right, so this is when I'm adding a little bit of the washes to the miniature. I do this very thinly on the armor and the trim of the armor with Nuln Oil because I don't actually want it to dirty it too much. Sometimes you can really layer Nuln Oil heavy and it becomes very dirty looking, and I just want this to lightly fill in the crevices. And here he is, fully painted, washed, dry brushed, and like I said, we have his tuft placement. I think he came out great. As soon as I finished him, I put him next to the bell guy that I showed off in a vlog, and they look super good together, so I'm very, very pleased. And I'm actually hoping that the Plague Surgeon maybe gets some rules updates with the upcoming release from Games Workshop and Psychic Awakening, since Deathguard will finally be getting some updates themselves. So I'm hoping he's included with maybe some like new rules or something so I can run him a little more regularly in my army. But I hope you guys have enjoyed, and let me know in the comments what you think.